The order of anime can sometimes be a confusing one. Sure, when you first start watching it, it seems pretty cut and dry. Pick a show, watch it, bada bing, bada boom, nothing to it. But as soon as you become a more seasoned anime vet, you start to see weird things with shows when scanning past the gateway layer of watching. Like Soul Eater having a drastically different ending in the anime that is much, much worse, or Inuyasha airing for a decade but having its show made up of about a year's worth of filler sprinkled in, or when everyone keeps telling you how great a series from the late 80s to early 90s is, and finally you give in and watch it because everyone's been telling you that it is from the golden age of anime, aka the 90s, just like how the 90s was the golden age of sitcoms and the golden age of cartoons and the golden age of hip-hop and the golden age of basketball. And man, if only there were a word for why people love the 90s so much. And you watch that show only to find out that the most animated moments from the show is them running and then them shouting for what seems to be about 10 still frames with a cut to a punch. And yeah, you just sit back and say, what the These are a few reasons that people are turned off from overall great shows or great stories. The solution for these problems? Give it a remake. So in this video, I want to highlight 5 anime that are most deserving of this rare blessing that many shows will not receive because they stand head and shoulders above the rest in terms of changing the anime
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that?
I'm sorry, man.
Alright, I'm gonna keep it a buck with y'all. I just picked the shit that I like, so yeah, let's get into it. So at number 5, we have Naruto, Part 1 Naruto. Now Naruto isn't that old, and I wholeheartedly think that anyone could watch Part 1 Naruto right now and still enjoy it and have a good time. That being said though, as the years go by, Part 1 Naruto is starting to show its age, and maybe that's because you can literally put it right next to its sequel and see, wow, the animation came far. It first aired in 2002, so I wouldn't mind a nice touch up to the show, maybe on its 10th anniversary, chop out all that fatty filler towards the end, something like that. As the fights in Naruto grew bigger in scale and bigger in just giant strobe like beam effect jutsus, man, I miss the good old days. It started to lose its flair in terms of just grounded hand-to-hand good old-fashioned ninja bouts. One of the best fights in the entire Naruto franchise in terms of aesthetic and fight choreography is Obito vs Kakashi, and that's because this fight didn't use over-the-top jutsus to blow huge chunks of land or drop literal meteors from the sky. And while that's cool and all, I'm not knocking that. It was just 2 ninjas fighting, and Part 1 of Naruto has a lot of just 2 ninjas throwing hands, my guy, but it's clearly kind of held back because, I mean, the animation just was nowhere near where it is today. So if a Part 1 Naruto remake came to light, hey, that'd be cool. At number 4 is Baku The Grappler. So this may actually turn into a fun fact for some people, but yes, Baku The Grappler needs a remake. Now obviously we have Netflix's Baki, which is great, video coming on that soon, but that's actually a continuation of a series called Baku The Grappler from the early 2000s. A lot of people don't know this because where Netflix picks up in the story is actually really convenient, and if you don't know any better, it can come across as just the beginning of a new story. And I think that was done this way on purpose so people didn't feel the need or feel like they had to go back and watch the OG series, which I'm okay with, that's fine. That said though, Baku The Grappler is only about 40 or so episodes, but man, if you've ever seen Baki or if you've ever read the manga, this claim will be something you probably can agree with. Early Baku The Grappler has some of the wildest moments, and I know if you don't know any of these moments and you've seen Baki, you're like, bro, can they really I promise you, some of the wildest moments, and I'd love to see them in that crisp high budget animation that Netflix has going now. The big thing with this though would probably be mad confusing and probably a marketing nightmare for casual fans, because like I said, I don't think the average fan of Baki, aka Netflix's Baki, knows that it's actually a continuation from a series like a few years ago. Either way though, I don't care, make it happen. Number 3 is Berserk. Now I really went back and forth on the idea of adding Berserk to this list for one huge reason. Unlike everything else on this list, the story isn't over, and it doesn't seem like it will be over for a while, because we get a new Berserk chapter once every year. So if this were to happen, then the anime would probably catch up in 3 to 4 years depending on its schedule and pacing. It may even be sooner than that, and technically it's only been around 3 years since the last computer generated, anime adaptation outside of the original 90s anime, which, let's be honest, on top of the OG 90s anime just flat out not covering all the story, because obviously that animation is truly dated at this point, and all those movies and series outside of the 90s anime are like mediocre to bad. So whenever the manga finally concludes, let's just get one clean run and let a studio like Wit or Madhouse get a crack at it, so I can see some fucking greatness out of Berserk in anime form. God damn. At number 2 is my all-time favorite anime, although these days JoJo's has been on his coattail, Yu Hakusho. Honestly, I'm gonna keep this short and sweet. It's one of the greatest anime of all time. Here's the original 90s series, and here's an HD OVA that was made a few years back. Now, can you honestly say with a straight face you don't want this? If you can, turn the video off. The Black Master Dante made a great video talking about why there should be a Yu Hakusho remake, so I'll just link it down below, or it will be in that little iCard thing up there. So yeah, if you need some convincing, go watch that video. The big kahuna, number 1, is, drumroll, Tokyo Ghoul. Now one of these days I plan on making a full deep dive video on what I personally think went wrong with Tokyo Ghoul and why it was such a failure after the first season, but because I don't want this video to be super long, 1, and 2, I need that content, baby. We're not gonna do that here. My opinion, in short, is Tokyo Ghoul is an amazing story, but sadly most people won't know this. They just get told the show is trash, the anime is butt cheeks after the first season, which, I mean, they kinda right. And the reason for this is because of how unfaithful it is to the source material. Jesus Christ. So when adapting source material, I get it. Sometimes creative decisions need to be made, and sometimes they're for the better. Not all the time do I want to see a direct one-to-one adaptation of something. Cool. But when there are amazing moments and amazing plot points flat out just missing altogether, that's a problem. Remakes haven't happened super often in anime, but the most successful ones usually come into fruition because its predecessor just didn't do that good of a job of adapting the source material, and no show on this list falls more in line with that than Tokyo Ghoul. Give it that classic Full Metal Alchemist to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood treatment, so Tokyo Ghoul can finally get praise as the anime giant it should be. Alright, that's the list. This video was hopefully not too hard to get through. I had this video on the tuck for a minute, and then I redid it because I feel like listicles are kind of boring. Not Watch Mojo or something like that. But if you enjoyed, please subscribe and like the video, and maybe even leave a comment on what you want to see get remade. Alright, I'm leaving.